This unity that we, the sons and daughters of the ancient Moabite blood, have established upon these shores of northwest Amexa, and this alien civilization shall be preserved at all costs through the bonds of Ali's holy and divine laws. If we violate these universal laws and principles by preferring a stranger before thy own sacred blood, may the flaming swords of our forefathers turn upon us. The wrath of Allah strike us down 7 times. We pledge our allegiance to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and love, truth, peace, and justice. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Pardon self. Time never was. Islam. All rise for the reading and worship. Science of America. Divine Constitution. Dialogue. Salvation in Allah, unity. The Morning Science Temple of America. Divine Constitution Bylaw. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Morning Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Morning Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs, and he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the members of the Morning Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed properly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Morning Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion, but to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are not, pardon self, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slave holders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era in time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful husband. You must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious, become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah, Islam. Please remain standing for the reading of the additional laws, followed by the Moorish American prayer. Questionnaire and additional laws for Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand Sheiks and governors, heads of all temples, all businesses, Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon any members. Let it be financed property in the line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any foreign officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their 8-up meeting and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around in a meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he'll be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. If he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch him. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. As I have the power invested in my hands, I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. Let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6 and Act 7 is in conjunction with the Moorish Science Temple of America Divine Constitutional Dialogue. Please remain standing for the reading of the Moorish American prayer. Face the east, hips touching, feet at a 90-degree angle. Spread your wings, angels, 5 to the left and 2 to the right. Repeat after me, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
injustice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah be a protector,
my God,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day.
through his holy prophet,
Through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen. We can now be seated, Moors. Islam, Islam, Islam. Time never was. Time never was. Today's subject matter is treaty, contract, the treaty trust, and the treaty as a security agreement, and the UCCs, and how does it apply to the Moors. First, we will open up and activate our one-on-ones. The great meeting is on Quran questions for Moorish Americans. Salvation. Noble Drew Ali, founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Okay. I posted the one-on-ones inside of the group chat. I don't know if you guys see it in there. Let me see if I can find it and repost it. Shit. Oh. Inside the files, it look like. Okay, they go to oral statements. That's the Moorish literature. Go to there you go. One-on-one keys. And all right, everybody make sure they sign in too. On electronic, as well as the Physical list. Yeah, post it. Posted that. Okay. So I'm gonna do a screen share. Keys. Okay. Oh, I know this one. Okay, no. Okay, got the screen share going on. One-on-one questions for the Morris Science Temple of America from the Holy Prophet, Noble Jurali, the founder. Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation by night and by day through his Holy Prophet, Jurali. Amen. Now, as I read these Quran questions for more children, please respond with the correct answer. Don't put nothing in, take nothing out. Islam, you ready to go with it? Islam? All right. Quran questions for more children. Key 1, who made you?
Allah.
2, who is Allah?
Allah is the Father of the universe.
3, can we see him?
No.
4, where is the nearest place we can meet him?
In the heart.
5, who is Noble Jew Ali?
He is Allah's prophet.
6, what is a prophet?
The prophet is the God of Allah who is faithful. But
7, what is the duty of a prophet?
to save nations from the wrath of Allah.
8, who is the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America?
Noble Jew Ali.
9, what year was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
1913.
10, where?
New York, New Jersey.
11, where was Noble Jew Ali born?
In the state of California.
State of California, you'll say?
The state of California.
Nah.
North
Looking at the list.
Wait. North Carolina.
So say like, wait, man, I ain't never seen that in one-on-one. In the state of California. I'll just do that again. 11, where was Noble Jew Ali born?
In the state of North Carolina. 1886.
12, what is his nationality?
Moorish American.
13, what is your nationality?
Moorish American.
14, why are we Moorish Americans?
Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
15, for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded?
For the uplifting of humanity.
16, how did the Prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans?
By teaching them to be themselves.
17, what is our religion?
Islam living.
18, is that a new or is that the old time religion?
Old time religion.
19, what kind of a flag is the Moorish?
It is a red flag with a 5-point star in the center.
20, what do the 5 points represent?
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
21, how old is our flag?
It is over 10,000 years old.
22, which is our holy day?
Friday.
23, why?
Because Friday is the day on which man was formed in the flesh, and it was on a Friday when he departed out of flesh.
24, who was Jesus?
He was a prophet of Allah.
25, where was he born?
In Bethlehem of Judah, in the house of David.
26, who were his father and mother?
Joseph and Mary.
27. When you give in brief the line genealogy through which Jesus came.
Some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz, Ruth, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. Ezekiel. Hezekiah.
Yeah, some people pronounce it different. All right. 28. Why did Allah send Jesus to this earth?
To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the Palestinian nation of Israel, who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time.
29. How long has that been?
About 2,000 years ago.
30. What is the nationality of Ruth?
Ruth was a Moabite.
31. What is the modern name for Moabites?
Moroccans.
32. Where is the Moroccan Empire?
Northwest of Mexico.
33. What is the modern name for Mexico?
Africa.
34. What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? Sultan. 35. Where do we get the name Jesus?
From the east.
36. What does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
37. Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
38. What is an angel?
An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh.
39. What are angels used for?
To carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all nations.
40. What is our prophet to us?
He is an angel of Allah who was sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah.
41. What is the everlasting gospel?
It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet.
42. What is the covenant of the great God Allah?
Honor thy father and thy mother, and thy days may be long upon the earth realm which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee.
43. At what age did Jesus begin to teach?
At age 12.
44. Where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
45. How long did he teach?
18 years.
46. What did Jesus say that would make you free?
Truth.
47. What is truth?
Truth is art.
48. What is art?
Art is Allah.
49. Can truth change?
Truth cannot change the past.
50. What other name do we give to truth?
Holy breath.
51. What have you to say about holy breath?
All we can say, it is great, it is good, it was, it is, and evermore to be.
52. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden.
53. Where is the Garden of Eden?
Mecca. In the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca.
54. What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden?
Mecca.
55. What is the name of the first physical man?
His name cannot be used only by exclusive rulers. Executive rulers of the AC of the MST of America.
Should say MST of A.
MST of America.
56. What are the words of AC of the MST of A?
Ancient chambers of the Moore Science Temple of America.
It's an ADAP chamber.
ADAP chambers of the Moore Science Temple of America.
Third heaven. 57. Who were Adam and Eve?
They are mothers and fathers of the Jewish family, Asiatics and Muslims.
58. Where did they go?
They went into Asia.
59. What is the modern name given to their children?
Israel.
60. Who is guarding the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away?
Angels.
61. What is the modern name for those angels? 62. What is the shade of their skin? 63. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels?
Yes, we all have the same father and mother.
64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
65. What is the devil sometimes called?
The lower self.
66. How many cells are there?
2.
67. Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
68. What people represent the higher self?
The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca.
69. What people represent the lower self?
Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teachings.
70. What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of virtue and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right.
71. Can the higher self pass away?
No.
72. Why?
Because it is Allah in man.
73. What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
74. What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? There's a typo in that too.
Where are you going, Satan?
75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I am going to and fro the earth, seeking whom I may devour.
76. Has he finished his task of devouring?
Yes.
75. When was his time declared out?
When he nailed Jesus to the cross.
78. What were the last words Jesus uttered?
It is finished.
79. What did he have reference to?
He had reference to the end of Satan.
80. Did Jesus say that he would return to conquer him?
Yeah.
81. What is the first name of the person to whom Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad, the prophet.
What is the name of the first name? Okay, 82. Was Satan to be bound then?
Satan was bound in part.
83. When was the head of Satan taken off?
1453 by
84. 84, pardon yourself. By whom?
By Muhammad.
85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774.
Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian.
86. What is meant by the word Negro?
Negro, a name given to the river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water.
87. What is meant by the word black?
Black, according to science, means death.
88. What does the word colored mean?
Colored means anything that can be painted, stained, varnished, or dyed.
Anything that has been painted, stained, varnished. Okay, 89. What does Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
90. Can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian?
No.
91. Why?
Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God Allah.
92. What title does Satan give himself?
God.
93. Will you define the word white?
White means purity. Purity means God, and God means the ruler of the world.
94. To whom do we refer at times as being the great God?
Allah.
95. Is the devil made in the image and in likeness of Allah?
No, he is the shadow of our Lord self in his past.
96. Who made the devil?
Elohim.
97. Who is Elohim?
You know who the seven creative spirits that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be.
98. What is Elohim sometimes called?
The seven eyes of Allah.
99. How many days are in the circle?
7 days.
100. How many days are in a creation?
7 days.
According to science, how many days are in a year?
7 days.
Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that demonstration. Okay. Now we're going to go into the subject matter today. Dealing out the 101 keys. Okay. Now we talked about Yahshua being Jesus on Holy Day. We broke down Industrious Acts. But let's talk about the grandmother of Yahshua. According to the true and divine records, is the Holy Bible. Dealing with Yahshua's grandmother was Ruth, the Moabitess. Now, her being a Moabitess was not a particular bloodline and lineage that was different from the Canaanites. It was directly connected. All of them being brothers and sisters. The Moabites and the Hammatites formed the first Moroccan Empire. That's where you get the Mohammed. The Mohammedans. We formed the first empire ever formed in history, and it's in the Bible. All right, so key 30 to key 34 ties us to not just a nationality, but these questionnaires is put in particular order. If you ever notice that, it's like telling a story. So the story, when it starts with, what is the nationality of Ruth? Ruth was a Moabitess. Okay. Then we go into 31 and say, what is the modern name for Moabites? Moroccans. Moroccans. That's important to know. That's a connection. Because everybody can't claim that connection of being from the ancient Moabites. This is how we make our claim to fame as being from the ancient ancestors, the ancient ones or the old ones is told in law. Now, I'm going to go into civics with this demonstration, right? Because now we're talking about the Moroccans. Now we have Moroccans treaties, right? So this automatic connects us to everything ancient and modern. Ancient and modern, because when we talk about law, it connects us to the ancient treaties and the modern treaties. And I'm going to show you that, how that displayed today in the treaty through the UCC and why we can use the treaty and what benefits that we directly get from just using the treaty without, I'm not talking about going to court. I'm talking about just in commerce. Just in commerce, the treaty applies. It says 32. Where is the Moroccan Empire, northwest of Mexico? That automatically connects all three of those questions, 30, 31, 32. Moabites, Moroccans, Moroccan Empire. Now that connects you to the treaties, because empires made treaties. And we know we have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the Europeans. We have the Treaty of the General Treaty with Great Britain. That we like to enforce. Those are our two favorite treaties. We got the Act to Protect Morocco, 1888. That's one. My three favorite treaties we like to enforce, right? Because that deals with commercial, international law, and lineage and post limine and just sanguinis. It ties us to all those treaties, ties us to all three of those things. But our one-on-ones ties us to those treaties by saying, where is the Moroccan Empire? Then 34 says, what is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? a sultan. That connects us to a republic, not a monarchy, not a dictatorship, because an emperor would be the opposite of a sultan. But they have the same capacity, but different powers. One have an absolute power, one have a representative power. So the reason I'm bringing it up today is because I want us to get to understand the power of the treaty when we're dealing with commercial affairs. In particular, doing our status correction. When we go through our status correction, a lot of times, the reason why I had to change the format because I was noticing that people was doing their UCCs backwards. He was creating security agreements. And really, security agreements is kind of fraud because you're making an agreement with yourself, which is flawed in itself. And I've done the process myself, so I'm speaking from experience on it. But what I learned was, and I'm going to share this to the screen as well, when we're dealing with the UCCs, which is the Uniform Commercial Code. And the reason why I like the UCC is because they ancient universal commercial codes from our ancestors. This is the rules and regulations where we traded commerce in. Now, Article 9 of the UCCs, once you get familiar with the UCCs, you're going to learn Article 1, Article 3, Article 9. Those are the main three you're going to be enforcing with the UCCs. We already know Article 1, UCC 1-308 deals with all rights reserved, reserving all rights. A lot of people don't understand what that means, but that's not today's topic. But UCC 1-308, reserving your rights, means anytime you think you might waive your rights, you're reserving. Just like in our holy and divine laws, it says, Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws. So you're not preserving them, you're reserving them. Right? So I just wanted to make that point. But when you're dealing with Article 9, you're dealing with what they call negotiable instruments. First of all, we got to go through the history of this. Okay? Because negotiable instruments is what you call bills. Now, every day you get these bills, you get coupons and things like that. Well, this is covered in the UCC, believe it or not. They made it into a law. It's called Article 9, negotiable instruments. And what you're doing is called secure transactions. All right? Secure transactions is what we're dealing with. There's no such thing as paying for anything. After the death of the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali was assassinated in 1929. He caused the Wall Street crash. Let me pull that up for evidence so we can validate as scientists what we're saying, because we don't just talk around here in the Moorish Science Temple of America. This ain't the place for talkers. This is the place for walkers. Noble Drew Ali was one of the greatest walkers of our time. The Wall Street crash of 1929. Let's go back to some history. Now, that's just called Black Tuesday. This is what Noble Drew Ali calls. How did Noble Drew Ali cause the Wall Street crash? By us giving us proclaim our nationality. I'm going to tie back what Noble Drew Ali did to the treaty, to the commercial side of what he did, though. See, he did things on the political side. But let's talk about the commercial side. Because when you tie yourself back to the treaty, tie yourself to a what they call security agreement. See, so you got certain things that's secured in these agreements and treaties that's commercials. Like the Treaty of 1787 is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, but it's also known as the Treaty of Commerce and Amity. All right? This is commercial agreement, which is a security agreement. Noble Drew Ali knew this. So when we proclaim our nationality, what we did was crash the bonds and crash that straw man. We choked the straw man. This is what Noble Drew Ali mean by everybody must proclaim nationality. Because see, once you took yourself out of Timothy Drew, which was the straw man, into his own straw man, Noble Drew Ali, that was connected to no bonds, no birth certificates, he choked the straw man. He no longer operated through Timothy Drew. Matter of fact, he put on a record in order statements, the prophet said, you must do all business in your new national name. Let all old business be all old business. That was the prophet's statement. This is what he was talking about, crashing the Wall Street, and this led to his assassination. See, he was doing bigger things than one knew because it's not being told. The half is not being told. Okay? Now, this happened right after the prophet was assassinated. In the autumn of 1929, the Wall Street crash of 1929, also known as the Great Crash or the Crash of 29, was a major American stock market crash that occurred in the autumn of 1929. It started in September and ended in mid-November when share prices of the New York Stock Exchange collapsed. The prophet was assassinated July 20th, the same day he put the affidavit in our questionnaire on the record. See, this is how you subscribe yourself to the questionnaire. You understand what this is. This is your land patent right here. That's why he put this on the record for you. Form the entity of trust under the Herbs Revised Act. When he put this on the record, July 20th, 1928, a year later, he was assassinated on the same exact day. 2 months after the Wall Street crash. See, the prophet do things ahead of his time. I'm going to continue reading. It was the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the United States. Let me say that again. It was the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the United States. When taken into consideration the full extent and duration of its after effects. What are we talking about? See, we only hear about House Joint Resolution 1933, 192, Great Depression story. But see, you don't understand. You live in a mental slavery with, you was told lies. In the last 5-10 years, you was told lies as well. Every day you getting told lies. See, the reason why this is important because they call it the depression. Now we will call the recession. So it's the remergence of that Great Depression. So we have to trace ourselves back to see what Noble Drew Ali did so we can set ourselves straight. And because the prophet put the works down for us, just to follow his footprints. Continue reading. The Great Crash is mostly associated with October 24th, 1929, called Black Thursday, the day of the largest sell-off of shares in U.S. history. And October 29, 1929, called Black Tuesday, when investors traded some 16 million shares of the New York Stock Exchange in a single day. Let me read that again, Morris, because I think that went over my head a little bit. It says, the Great Crash is when investors traded some 16 million shares, 16 million shares on a New York Stock Exchange in a single day. I know we conscious of stocks now. We trading shares on the stock market, so we can understand when somebody sells their shares, they lose ownership in the company. Why would they do that? Protect their assets, right? Protect their investments so they don't lose on their return, right? They don't lose on their investment, right? So all this happened 1929, though. This was 4 years before they announced it to the world. Now I'm going to continue reading. The crash, which followed the London Stock Exchange crash of September, signaled the beginning of the Great Depression. The Prophet started the Great Depression, so-called. It wasn't no Great Depression for us, just like it ain't no recession for us. It's for the European stocks, the corporations, the corona, the COVID. Don't believe me? Okay, let's look at something else. Now, that's before I get into what the treaty do and how we enforcing treaty and what this happened. How many of y'all heard of the 100 CEOs that resigned 2 years ago? Nah, pardon yourself, it wasn't 100. It was 1,300 CEOs. 1,300 in 2019. You want to see this? 1,300 CEOs, including Bill Gates, left their position. Bill Gates no longer is in Microsoft. That's why he said he doing planetarian work and things like that. All right. 1,300 CEOs left their position. Now, this is exactly what happened in Wall Street crash. When 16 million shares were sold, they lost their position. That's the same thing these CEOs just did. 1929, they did this in 2019. Now, you got to understand how history repeats itself. In the year 2000, what happened was more started coming into awakening. They told you the world was going to end in 1999. It did for them. Because it was the reawakening of Hiram Abiff. Abiff is the master builder who was buried in a shallow grave that all Masons know when you get a 33rd degree. And he right here in North America. And he awakened from the grave. And that Hiram Abiff is us. The builders of the kingdom of Solomon. Solomon's temple. We here in the temple of Solomon. And we got the seal of Solomon. The 7 is the seal of Solomon. If you know anything about the seal of Solomon, that's the 7 creative planets, the Elohim. 7-pointed star. Now, what the prophet did was connect us to this security agreement called a treaty. On a UCC subsection 9, 3-11, perfection of security interests and property subject to certain statutes, regulations, and what? Treaties. This is on the UCC 9, 3-11. Now, what's 3-11? It's 33. Just like in 1933. It's a relation to this, I'm telling you, Morris. Now, what is the security interest? First of all, what is perfection? Now we got to go into the Black's Law because you can't just read these words and not understand what you're reading. Look at the definition of perfection so we can understand this UCC code as we read it. 9-311. Going to Black's Law Dictionary for the definition of perfection. Performance. Okay, we got a couple different definitions for perfections. You got first, perfect or perfected. All right. That means complete, finished, executed, enforceable, without defect, merchantable, marketable, brought to a state of perfection. Also to perfect equity, obligation, ownership, title, and usufruct. See those titles. So we can easily say that perfection, perfect or perfected means to execute something or enforce something without defect. That means without a lien. Makes it marketable. It's basically it's something you are doing commerce and equity. It's a title to something. Right? It gives you title. So let's continue reading. Perfect instrument. It says a perfect instrument such as a deed or mortgage is said to become perfect or perfected when recorded or registered or filed for record, because it then becomes good as to all the world. Ate up, ribbon, and want to stay up today, huh? All right, so a perfect instrument. So an instrument, first of all, is what you call a bill, like I said. Negotiable instruments. You call it a bill, you call it an affidavit, document. These are instruments in law. All right, so when you file to perfect the instrument, you file it for the record. Just like the prophet filed this for a record. He perfected an instrument. See, his affidavit is an instrument. Islam. And he filed that on the record, August 1st, 1929. That was filed on the record. So he perfected an instrument. Now let's go to the next definition, because it said, first of all, it says it becomes good to all the world. When you file on the record, that's what full faith and credit means. You can file it in Texas, and it's good in New Jersey, Georgia, California, the Mecca, in Chicago. No matter where you go, that affidavit, that instrument has been perfected. All right, now let's go into perfection of security interest. The definition of perfecting of security interest in secure transactions law. In the secure transactions law, the process whereby security interest is protected as far as the law permits against competing claims to the collateral, which usually requires the secured party to give public notice of the interest as by filing in a government office, e.g., Office of Secretary of State. Let me read that again, Morris. Can I read that again? Islam? It says, perfection of a security interest is whereby that security interest is protected. It's protected. You file this on the record. You perfect this instrument. He perfected a security interest. What was the security interest? First of all, do we know what a security interest is? No, we don't. Nobody here raising their hand, so I assume nobody knows. Okay, so it says the security interest is protected as far as the law permits, right? Now let's go into security interest, so we can get a clear drawing on this. I'll make it all come together. We got to know what's coming together. It's like a puzzle. You got to fit it together. All right, security. Then you got security deposit. Y'all heard of security deposit, right? Okay. Let's get the bells turning now. Now we got security deposit. Now we got security interest, okay? Security interest in property obtained pursuant to a security agreement. Let's read that again. Security interest. Interest in property. Interest in property obtained pursuant to security agreement. What is the interest in property? Okay, let's continue reading. a form of interest in property which provides that the property may be sold on default in order to satisfy the obligation for which the security interest is given. Let's read that one more time. A form of interest in property which provides that the property may be sold on default in order to satisfy the obligation for which the security interest is given. A mortgage is used to grant a security interest in real property. Okay, now we got an example. A mortgage is used to grant a security interest in real property. An interest in personal property or fixtures which secures payment or performance obligation. UCC subsection 1-201, 37, and 9-102, including the interest of assignee of the proceeds of a letter of credit. Lien created by an agreement. At the end, it says lien created by an agreement. Okay? So we can clearly make a drawing today and say a security interest is a lien created by agreement. And that's in the Bankruptcy Code subsection 101. Bankruptcy Code subsection 101 says a security interest is a lien created by an agreement. And what does the security interest do? It provides that the property may be sold on default in order to satisfy the obligation. What does that mean? You ever had a car title loan? That's a mortgage. Okay, you go get a car title loan. You say, look, I want a loan. I want a loan for this title I have that holds title to my car, which is the collateral. So they're going to take the title for collateral and they're going to put a lien on the title. What is the lien? The lien is a form of interest in property that provides that the property may be sold on default in order to satisfy the obligation. So what is the obligation? The obligation is that I'm giving you interest in my car, which is a security deposit for you to give me a loan for whatever the value of the loan might be. So if you give me a loan for, say, $1,000 for easy math. So you give me a loan for $1,000 on my car. Now we formed a what? An agreement. This is called a security agreement. Why is it a security agreement? Because I put up security. I secured it with what? I secured the loan with collateral because on default, if I can't pay, which is the obligation, right, to me to pay back the loan, if I can't pay back the loan, then on default, you can sell my car. This is what a security interest is. Now, how does this apply to the perfection of security interest? Let's go back to perfection of security interest again. So now we can understand what a security interest is, right? It's a lien on agreement. It's a lien by agreement on somebody. See, you lien, what can you lien? You only lien property. You only put a lien on property. So you can own nothing in this world, but you can control everything. You can't die with nothing. You got to pass it down. All right? So let's go back to the definition of perfection of security interest, right? So in security transactions law, the process whereby security interest is protected, protected, as far as the law permits, against competing claims to the collateral. Okay, so let's break that down. Perfection of security interest is when you file it on the record and then you protect your interest in that collateral. So the car loan place just filed your agreement under UCC with the Secretary of State to protect their interest in the collateral. against anybody competing against a claim on that collateral. So if the car dealership claims a competing claim against that car, they have interest in the matter too, because they're a secure party now. The car title people. The car title people have a claim. They clouded the title is what it's called. So now the title was clouded. So if the car dealership try to come and repossess it, they got to pay this car title company first, or they can't get the title, because the holder of the title is the true owner. What do you mean by the holder of the title is the true owner? We're going to get into that. What a holder in due course is. You have to know we the crown holders, but you got to know what a holder is. Because nobody Ali knew what the crown holder is. Okay? So we see perfection of a security interest, what it is. Okay? You file something on the record that say, hey, I got a lien against something over here. So nobody else can come and claim this property without paying me for that first. What I'm doing. So if I got $1,000 lien on this car, because I gave $1,000 loan on it, if somebody buy this car for $20,000, they got to give me $1,000 out of that $20,000, because I got a lien on that, and that's enforceable. Because what does perfect mean? It means something enforceable. So we're not talking about a perfect world, perfect in normal terms, right? We talking about perfect when we dealing with what? Securities, commerce, law. We talking legalese. Perfect means that ain't nobody else got a lien on when we talking about in the legalese world, right? Now let's go into what a holder in due course is, because this applies to our position as the heirs of the land. And security, though, we talking about on the UCC. See, everybody want to talk about our indigenous rights, but nobody understand what it means when it comes to finance. Prophet said it's going to take finance to uplift this nation. So we got to know finance. This is financial literacy. You got to know what a holder is, an instrument is. These are commercial terms. I'm bringing this out of commercial agreements, commercial codes. So this is financial literacy, is it not? Islam it is, indeed. Islam, Moab, it is. This is definitely financial literacy to its highest degree. Because what doesn't speak from the highest plane of spirit life? Hold it. Because you got to know why the United States is a holding company, first of all. It's a holding company. You see, when you get into the LLCs, the United States is not a nation. They're not a country. According to Title 28, USC 3002-15, United States is a federal corporation. They're a holding company, Morris. I'm going to read the definition of holder and due course, and holding company. Because we got to understand how all this relates, how the profit crashed these people in the stock market by us proclaiming nationality. Got to make a relation here now. A holder. Holder. Definition of holder. First of all, let's read the definition of hold. Hold. To possess in virtue of a lawful title, as an expression common in grants, to have and to hold, or to apply it to notes, the owner and holder. So we can see to hold something in law means to have the lawful title to it. The lawful title to it, not the legal title. It's the difference between a legal title to something and a lawful title. The legal title is your certificate of title that you got on your car. The lawful title is actually your bill of sale, that you actually purchased the car. Your receipt is your lawful title, because that means you lawfully, by law, own this car, not just by title. See, the title company, they have legal title, right? Teach you. Now, Hold also means, definition number 2, to be the grantee. Let's read that again. Hold means to be the grantee or tenant of another, to take or have an estate from another. To have an estate on condition of paying rent or performing service. That's the second definition of hold, to be the grantee. So when we file our affidavit on the record, what did the judge put in the simplification? That we was grantees. So you got to know what this means. That means you have a hold of what? Lawful title to something. But you got to know what it is, Mo. You got to know what you got in your hands. The prophet said, I have the power to save the nation in my hands, Mo. All right. So I think we got a good understanding what the hold means, right? Now let's go into the noun of hold. That was the verb. That was a verb definition. This is the noun definition. In English and Old English law, a tenor, a word constantly occurring in conjunction with others as freehold, or leasehold, or copyhold, etc., but rarely met with in the separate form. Now, hold. Now we can go into what a freehold is. Now we're going into real estate. For anybody that's mortgage-minded, real estate, freehold, a leasehold. Okay, now you'd have rented under a lease before, right? But you didn't ever know that was called a leasehold. A leasehold. You got lawful title to something, to use it, to possess it, right? That was a leasehold of the estate. So you became the holder. Now let's read the definition of a holder. Holder, the holder of a bill of exchange, promissory note, check, or other commercial paper, is the person who has legally acquired possession of the same by endorsement or delivery, and who is entitled to receive payment of the instrument. Person who is in possession of a document of title or an instrument or an investment security, drawn, issued, or endorsed to him or to his order or to bearer or in blank, UCC subsection 1-201. Okay, so a holder, let's break that down, is a person who's in possession of a document of title. The person in possession of this document of title is now the holder. Right? So let's go back to the car title example. You gave the car title your certificate of title. That's a document of title. That's an instrument. They became holders. So this is how they began to take that agreement, that promissory note, and you sign a promissory note. You say you promise to pay them back, right? Well, that's called a promissory note. That's a note that holds value. That's the same thing as a Federal Reserve note. It's a promissory note. It's a promise to pay to be redeemed. See, I'm going to show you how the prophet redeemed us. Because he said, what the prophet said in your Quran? What the prophet said in your Quran? By the God of his father, God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man. To redeem man from his sinful fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father, God Allah. So see, you got to understand, the prophet gave us a redemption manual. But it has the commercial side to it. So I'm trying to give it to us right now. What's the commercial side to it? So a holder, we see what a holder is, right? We see what the hold is. Now, holder in due course. Let's read that definition. In commercial law, a holder of an instrument who took it for value in good faith and without notice of any claim or defense against it. UCC subsection 3-302. Remember, I told you most important UCC is going to learn is 1, 3, and 9. See, we're not just doing status correction, just have a set of paperwork, Morris. I'm giving you the keys on how you're going to discharge your debt, how you're going to get out of taxes, How you going to learn how to force the being holder of due course and how you can challenge them of being holder in due course. I'm telling you, it works. I done served over 250 families just by understanding holder in due course law and who's the holder of the instrument. Because if you ask a creditor, show proof of contract. If he can't show proof of contract, how can he prove he's the holder in due course? How can he prove he's the holder? How can he prove in court? When you ask the judge for delegation of authority, or you ask for an injured party after they claim against you, how can they prove they the holders? You gotta understand how this works, man. This is deep. This UCC understanding applies to everything. It applies to treaties. It applies to law and courts. It applies to your bills that you get. You call them bills. They really instruments and presentments. They're really presentments. But we're going to get into that another time, how to discharge. Okay. Now I'm going to read this. Holder in due course, who can enforce the instrument free from all claims and personal defenses. A payee may be a holder in due course. Now, payee is synonymous with a grantee or a trustee. Okay, it's somebody who's been invested title into something. All right? Now, when we put our affidavits on the record, the judge gave us a simplification that says use the grantee. You now hold in due course in your free national capacity. Right? But as grantor, use the straw man. You got to understand how this applies to what we're doing in nationality. Now, a holder, it says a holder does not become a holder in due course of an instrument by purchase of it at a judicial sale or by taking it under legal process or by acquiring it or by acquiring it and taking over an estate or by purchasing it as a bulk transaction, not in regular course of business of the transferor. Okay, so you can't buy your way to be a holder in due course. So the United States cannot be the holder in due course of our land, Morris. Just because they took over our states, they don't make them the holder in due course. See, due course means by inheritance, by lineage. You the holder in due course by beneficiary status. If you're not the beneficiary, just because you got the trustee position of the state, don't mean you got ownership over the collateral over the beneficiaries, more. See, United States is just trustees of our estates. They don't have beneficiary status over our land. So they're not holders in due course, and they cannot prove they're holders in due course. There's no treaty where we granted them anything other than 10 by 10 square miles. That's the only thing they have is 10 by 10 square miles. I can show you that in every treaty with the Indians. Every treaty in Indians says that. And we're going to go into treaty study because this is what this is about, treaties today. Islam on the commercial side. Now, that's okay. So they say you can't purchase your way to be a holder in due course. So a holder in due course of a consumer credit contract, i.e. consumer papers, Federal Reserve notes, is subject to all claims and defenses which the debtor buyer could assert against the seller of the goods and services obtained pursuant to credit contract with the proceeds thereof. Okay. So a holder is somebody who has lawful title, not legal title, number one. Number two, a holder is somebody who maintains authority over that title, or maintain authority or jurisdiction over something. That's the holder. The holder also the holder in due course, right? So I'm just making a connection so you understand what a holder in due course is. The holder. Let's look up what due course is. Because this all ties into UCC 9-311 and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Due course. Due course holder. Due course of law. Okay, due. First of all, I start with due. Now, due means just, proper, regular, lawful, sufficient, reasonable, as in the phrases due care or due process of law, due notice. All right, so you got hold in due course, and then you got due process of law. All right, so we to hold in due course by due process of law. Then you got the word overdue. The word due always imports a fixed and settled obligation or liability, but with reference to the time for its payment, there is considerable ambiguity in the use of the term, the precise signification being determined in each case from the context. So the word due means an obligation or liability. So hold in due course, overdue payment, past due payment, due process of law. It means due means an obligation that's lawful, right? So let's go into due course. Due course of law means, it says this phrase is synonymous with due process of law or the law of the land. And the general definition therefore is law in its regular course of administration through courts of justice. So due course of law, due process of law is synonymous with the law of the land. The law of the land means the due course of law and due process of law. Now it says, then you got the word due date. Due date, right? So it's letting you know something is an obligation. Okay, now let's read the due process clause. Two such clauses are found in the U.S. Constitution. One in the Fifth Amendment pertaining to federal government, and the other in the 14th Amendment, which protects persons from state actions. There are two aspects: procedural, in which a person is guaranteed fair procedures, and substantive, which protects a person's property from unfair governmental interference or taking. Similar clauses are in most state constitutions. See due process of law. Okay, so I'm not going to read what due process of law is. That's a long definition. But a due process clause is the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment. The prophet said we don't use the 14th Amendment. Why? Because we got the Fifth Amendment. And the 14th Amendment protects only U.S. persons. They don't have protection for the nationals against the government. Right? So due process of law, due course of law. So when you asking the judge for due process of law, what you asking for? You asking for Fifth Amendment protection that says they have to adhere to the United States Constitution. You protected under Constitution from the government. So what it means when you to hold in due course, that you by law have lawful title. By the law of the land. That means to have lawful title. Behold in due course. Now this gives you security interest. This gives you interest in the security. What is the security we talking about? We talking about the estate. Because what's the security? Did we read the definition of security? I think we just read security interest. We didn't read security. Let's read what security is. We read security interest. But what is security? Security people call themselves secure party creditors, don't know what security is. Okay, security.
Protection, assurance, indemnification. The term usually applied to an obligation, pledge, mortgage, deposit, lien, etc. given by a debtor in order to make sure that the payment of the performance of his debt by furnishing the creditor with a resource to be used in case of failure in the principal obligation. The name is also times given to one who becomes surety or grantor for another.
So when we file our affidavit on the record, they put grantor and grantee. That's a guarantor as well, or a trustor, somebody who has a collateral, and then they put the collateral up in case of default. They put it up as collateral, like, okay, look, let me get this $1,000 and put my car up. So that's a security. You do it when you go rent an apartment. You say, okay, let me rent this apartment. I'm gonna put the security deposit up. I'm gonna put this $1,000 up. If you rent the apartment and you pay your rent on time, at the end of that 12 months, what they do? They give it back to you. Same thing with the car title. They give you the title back, right? Mm-hmm. This is what a security is. Security is something that's protection in case you default, but you get it back. You get it back, right? So security is synonymous with collateral, right? So we look how to perfect the security interest, but what is an interest? Now we know what security is, now I don't know what an interest is. We know what the term perfection of security interest is, but let's break down what interest is. We broke down what perfect means, security, but what's the interest? Because I know I pay interest on my bills and stuff like that on credit cards. So let's understand how this applies to commercial and to treaty, because they telling you UCC applies to the treaty. Interest. You got interest rate, interest party, you got interest. Interest, the most general term that can be employed to denote a right, claim, title, or a legal share in something. In its application to real estate or things real, it is frequently used in connection with the term estate, right, and title. So we can see right from there with an interest. See, we think we just talking about somebody's interested in the security. No, you have interest in the security means you have the right, the title to it. You have the estate. You have a legal share in it. You have a claim to it. So perfection of security interest. First of all, perfected means you file it on the record to give notice to anybody else that got a claim against it. That you have a security interest in the collateral. Security interest means, security means the collateral, which you put up. The interest means the title and right to it, the claim to it. Now, how does that tie to the treaty? That's what the topic is today. But first, before we can get into that short lesson, we have to know what we're talking about when we're dealing with the UCC 9-311, perfection of security interest and property subject to certain statutes, regulations, and treaties. Now, what properties are subject to certain statutes, regulations, and treaties? The land, our estate, our land, North America, Central America, South America. See, this is the redemption manual to that, to redeem man. This is how we get redeemed by our security agreement. Through the treaty. Through chapter 47, the prophet said we had dominion. That means control. Over what? North, South, Central America, and Africa, right? He made claim to that, title to that, of the estate, to redeem man. That's a commercial side to that. Let's read the UCC so we can get an understanding of this. UCC, subsection 9-311, perfection of security interests and property subject to certain statutes, regulations, and treaties. A, security interests subject to other law. Except as otherwise provided in subsection D, the filing of a financing statement is not necessary or effective to perfect a security interest and property subject to, number one, a statute, regulation, or treaty of the United States whose requirements for a security interest obtaining property priority over the rights of a lien creditor with respect to the property preempt section 9-310A. Number two, list any statute covering automobiles, trailers, mobile homes, boats, farm tractors, or the like, which provides for a security interest to be indicated on a certificate of title as the condition or result of perfection in any non-uniform commercial code central filing statute. Or, number three, a statute of another jurisdiction which provides for a security interest to be indicated on a certificate of title as a condition or result of security interest obtaining priority over the rights of a lien holder with respect to the property. B, compliance with other law. Compliance with the requirements of a statute, regulation, or treaty described in subsection A for obtaining priority over the rights of a lien creditor is equivalent to the filing of a financing statement under this article, except as otherwise provided in subsection D in sections 9-313 and 9-316D and E for goods covered by a certificate of title. A security interest is property subject to a statute, regulation, or treaty described in subsection A may be perfected only by compliance with those requirements. And a security interest so perfected remains perfected notwithstanding a change in the use or transfer of possession of the collateral. Let's go down to D. Inapplicability to certain inventory. Part itself, I ain't read C. Duration and renewal of perfection. Except as otherwise provided in subsection D in section 9-316D and E. Duration of the renewal of perfection of a security interest perfected by compliance with the requirements prescribed by a statute, regulation, and treaty described in subsection A are governed by the statute, regulation, or treaty. In other respects, the security interest is subject to this article. D. Inapplicability to certain inventory. During any period in which collateral subject to a statute specified in subsection A2 is inventory, held for sale, or leased by a person, or leased by that person as leaser, and that person is in the business of selling goods of that kind, this section does not apply to a security interest and that collateral created by that person. Legislative note. This article contemplates that perfection of a security interest in goods covered by a certificate of title offers upon receipt by appropriate state officials of a properly tendered application for a certificate of title on which the security interest is to be indicated without relation back to an earlier time. States whose certificate of title statutes provide for perfection at a different time or contain a relation back provision should amend the statutes accordingly. Okay, let's break this down. Now, first of all, this is saying that anytime you have a treaty a commercial treaty, which is a lien in a security agreement, you do not have to file a financing statement. What's a financing statement? Let's look up the term financial statement. Let's click on the link. It tells you what a financial statement is. Okay, a financing statement means a record or records composed of an initial financing statement and any filed record relating to the initial financing statement. Okay. That really didn't tell us, but I'm going to tell us. A financing statement is the UCC1. That's the non-UCC financing statement. All right. The non-UCC1 financing statement is a lien notice to perfect the security interest that's regulated by a statute or a treaty. Okay? So what do we put on the lien UCC1? So we saying perfection is to file something on the record with the Secretary of State. So let's go to the Secretary of State so let's get a clear drawing of this. So you go to the Secretary of State and you type in Secretary of State in your Google. All right. Now you can go and type in at the end of it, UCC. Now it goes to UCC forms, Texas Secretary of State. All right. Initial filing. Amend initial filing. The UCC financing statement form, UCC1. Form to be used for initial filing. All right. Let's take a quick look at this form. The UCC1 financial statement that's going to be subject to the treaty. Because this is how you perfect the security interest by a financing statement. Now we understand what perfection of a security interest is. Now I see the section where it says debtor, secured party, and collateral. That's section 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? That's all this is. It's just a notice of those four sections. The first section says debtor, who's in debt, right? Second section says secured party, who has security interests, right? The fourth section says collateral. What is the collateral that's put up as what? Security. All right, so let's go back to the example of car title. You went and got a loan. You put up your certificate of title. They gave you $1,000. You sign a paper that said, I promise to pay that $1,000 back. Now they have a security interest because now they have title, they holder of the security. You promise to pay, and if you don't promise to pay, they get to take the car and sell it. So they became a secured party. You became a debtor because you promised to pay back. The collateral goes in the collateral section. $1,000. This is how you do a UCC financial statement. But this say, and UCC 9-311 say you don't have to do that. If what? You got a treaty. You ain't got to do that if you got a treaty. Because we already got notice. How you going to give them double notice? It's already on the record. The treaty is your UCC 1. The treaty is a UCC 1. That's what it means when the prophet said on the commercial side to redeem man. Then he put chapter 47 in here of your dominion of Africa, which is commercial. What you mean is commercial, boy? Let me show you what it's commercial in chapter 47. Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. What does the word capital mean? Let's go into the Black's Law Dictionary so I can show you how this is commercial in the Quran. It's commercial side to it. It says a capital empire. What is a capital empire? That word don't even exist, more. It's a double meaning to it. The prophet was giving you a clue. It said a capital empire. The commercial empire. Go to Black's Law Dictionary, look up the word capital. Because this Sunday school, Morris. So it's time for legalese and get some reading done. You know? Capital means, Black's Law Dictionary, accumulated goods, possessions, and assets used for the production of profits and wealth. Owner's equity in a business, often used equally correctly to mean the total assets of a business. Sometimes used to mean capital assets. In accounting, the amount invested in business. In economic theory, there are several meanings. Capital may be used to mean capital goods, that is, the tools of production, the money available for investment or investing, the discounted value for the future income to be received from investment, the real or money value of total assets, money or property used for the production of wealth, some total of corporate stock. Then you have other definitions of capital. You got authorized capital, capital account, capital assets, capital contribution. You got capital gains tax, capital gain, capital loss. So we can easily define capital as accumulated goods, possessions, and assets used for the production of profits and wealth. What do you mean? Say if everybody put up $500. But we're going to use that $500 to invest in the company to get us some future income. That's a capital. The capital means the capital. It means the principal. It means what you invest in your company. What you invest in a company is called the capital. Let's read this again. Capital means accumulated goods, possessions, and assets used for the production of profits and wealth. So accumulated goods, possessions. So the prophet said, chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. This is what he meant. Can I get some more water right there? This is what he meant. Thank you, Danny Murray, for posting the definition of capital in there. But that's what the prophet meant. Egypt. Egypt means the hidden, right? But we in Sunday school, so let's talk esoteric. Let's talk metaphysical. Egypt never was a land named Egypt. It means the hidden, the darkness, the unseen. That's the Egypt. When Moses took the people out of the land of Egypt, And then Yahshua took the people from Moses' army and led them to the land of Canaan. We talking metaphysical, right? Okay, then. So we just went over the lesson of Yahshua in the Industrious Acts. He took the people from the land of Egypt. Let's go into the Industrious Acts. It says, he got the Moabites, Hamathites, and Canaanites who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. What we talking about? In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. Then we go to chapter 47. It says Egypt, the capital empire. We explained Friday what an empire is. It's the what? It's the kingdoms coming together under a sultan, right? And our keys. What is the name given to our ruler? Key. What key is that? Key 34. What is the title given to our ruler in Morocco? A sultan. The executive ruler. The executive ruler is the sultan. Right? So, sultan being executive ruler, pardon so, that was held in Egypt. By who? By Yahshua. So this is the hidden empire, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. Who has the dominion of Africa? Dominion means what? Jurisdiction, authority, holders of due course. So who's the holders in due course? Who's the possessors? Because we was looking up holder, and it means the person who has possession, right? Now let's go. I'm not going to read this whole chapter, but let's go into verse 6. Verse 6 says what? The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. The true possessors of the Moroccan Empire are the holders in due course. We are the holders, the crown holders of the capital. What is the capital? It's our collateral. It's our estate, our security. It's in the treaty, our land, the dominion of Africa. Then we go into key. That's why I have to say, look, we have to read key 30 through 34, because what is the modern name for Mexico? Africa. It's the modern name for Mexico. And where is the present Moroccan Empire? Northwest of Mexico. That's a capital empire. The prophet said that the Moroccan Empire is not a regular empire, it's a capital empire. What do I mean by a capital empire? Let's go into the treaty so that's going to bring it all together. Now it's going to all make sense. Let's go into the treaty of the peace and friendship, 1787. First of all, this is the oldest treaty in history by the United States that's still up and running. This is the only treaty they ever honored, because they had to honor it. The Moroccan-American Treaty, Peace and Friendship, 28th June, 1786. That's the same month, in the same week, the prophet put the affidavit on the record. And this was 100 years before the prophet birth. The prophet was born in 1886, and this was written in 1786. There's no strange happenings. Law governs all events. So let's go into Our questionnaire says, what is the modern name for the Moabites? What is the modern name for the Moabites? The Moroccans. So let's go to the Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship. It says, in the name of Almighty God, this is a treaty of peace and friendship established between us, right, with us, Act 6, in the United States of America, which is confirmed and which have been ordered to be written in this book and sealed with our royal seal at our court of Morocco on the 25th day of the blessed month of Shaban in the year 1200, trusting in God, it will remain permanent. It will remain permanent. Okay, let's go into the commercial clause. I believe that's Article 14. 14 says, Article 14, the commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as is the commerce with Spain, or as that with the most favored nation for that time being. And their citizens shall be respected and esteemed and have full liberty to pass and repass our country and seaports wherever they please without interruption. So this is a commercial agreement, is it not? This is how it says the commerce with the United States. So they put a commercial clause in here. So it's not just about political and criminal, but it's a treaty of commerce and amity. It gave them permission to do commerce on our land, more, because we had the capital empire. By being holders of the capital empire, we have what? The right to make an agreement. This is a security agreement. That's why the UCC 9-311 says, once you have a treaty, there's no need to file a lien, a UCC 1 financial statement. You already got the treaty. You gave them people commerce. Now all you got to do is go through the different treaties on how it applies to the situation. The main treaties we use is 1786, Treaty of Peace and Friendship. We use 1856, treaty with Great Britain. We use the treaty with Act to Protect Morocco, 1880. Right? They all have commercial clauses in there. So anytime they try to tax us or bill us for something, we can discharge these things because we have the commercial clause to it already. Here go another commercial clause, 17. Merchants shall not be compelled to buy or sell any kind of goods, but such as they shall think proper may buy and sell all sorts of merchandise, but such as are prohibited to the other Christian nations. The Christian nations. They're not talking about religion. See, Christianity is a military operation. What you think the Crusades was about? So it's saying that when you're a merchant, what's a merchant? A merchant is somebody to sell something. We all are merchants, right? We should be merchants. But they got us being consumers. We consumers. So they have to make consumer rights for us since we want to be consumers. But really, we got merchant rights. So this is another commercial clause. And it says, this is prohibited to the other Christian nations. So this is why the prophet also put in here, chapter 48, he said, we as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. These are served the gods of their religion because our forefathers are true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared for their forefathers for their earthly salvation. This is what it means on the commercial side. Because what's in the habit of citizen? So as citizens of Africa, and what is Africa? Northwest of Maxim. So citizens of Northwest of Maxim, we do not desire to amalgamate. What does amalgamate means? Merge corporations, merge organizations, right? Why? Because we gave them permission to do business on our land. We gave them merchant clause. They couldn't sell and buy anything without this treaty. They couldn't. This gives them permission to be merchants. But only the ones under our Constitution that comes on the United States. That's why they can't come over here as Great Britain and do business as Great Britain. Because there's no treaty that protects them under that. They have to, Great Britain owns the United States, so they work as United States holding company to do business through the United States. And that's the only way they can do business because the 1787 treaty says so. It says it's prohibited to any other Christian nations. Let's go to 18. Another commercial clause. It says all goods shall be weighed and examined before they are sent on board, and to avoid all detention of vessels, no examination shall afterwards be made, unless it shall be first proved that contraband goods that have been sent on board, in which case the persons who took the contraband goods on board shall be punished, according to the usage and custom of the country, and no other person shall be injured, nor shall the ship or cargo incur any penalty or damage, whatever. So this is dealing with the goods. So first they talked about that, first of all, they can do commerce on the land. Then they say, okay, you can be a merchant on our land. Then it says, okay, the goods that you shipping from our land back and forth, it can't control, it can't have no contraband in there, nothing illegal. And it got to be weighed and examined first. So I'm a truck driver, so I know about weigh stations. So when you pick up a load, the first thing you got to do is take it to the weigh station. Why? It has to be weighed and examined. So you might know this as when you come customs. You hear about customs when you come into the country and you bring in certain goods in. You got to go through customs first. That's called a weigh station. They got to weigh it, and they got to examine it. Why? Because of the Treaty of 1787. We made the commercial clauses. This is what it means by knowing the supreme law of the land and using it in commercial clauses. Because the UCC's even said that this is supreme law of the land. You don't got to file no UCC 1 when you got the treaty. The government all commerce for you already. But do you know your treaty? Do you know your treaty rights as being indigenous? Do you know you're a Moroccan and connected to the Moroccan treaties? Like the prophet said we are. We have dominion. We have authority. We are holders in due course. We have a security agreement right here. But we still filed a UCC on the record, though. But I filed it with the treaty. In the status correction program, we don't need security agreement with a fake debtor called the straw man. How can you make an agreement with a dead entity anyway? So when we file our UCC with you, we're going to put the treaty on the record. And we're going to go through that. Because what a UCC is, it's just securing your collateral. It's giving notice. It's perfected, right? Perfection of a security interest. UCC, guys, 9-311. We almost close to that time, so I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. This is Sunday school. If you have any questions about the status correction, about the UCC, about the lessons of today, the floor is now yield.
Yeah, I got a question. I filled out something that you had on the chat group. I don't know if you received it or not.
You say you filled out something on the with the status correction application?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna check them after this. Yeah, make sure everybody do your status correction application. So we can get that ball rolling, because by the end of March, the new year, that's how that's done. Let's just knock that out. We all be in a safer place when we got everything perfected, and then we can start to move and build on that, because then we're going to start to understand how to use these things. See, that's the point of us doing it together, because we can use it together. Now we can understand how we can go claim things, how we have security interests in the land, and how we can use the treaty to discharge our bills, and how we can put things on the record. See, the treaty has multiple usages and commercial. That's the reason for the treaty. The treaty is all for commerce. It's all about them coming, using our ports and traveling. That's all commercials, admiralty. It's all admiralty at the end of the day. But it's a contract. So we know, like, when we go through the WA bend, let's look at the WA bend. When you just look at the form, it lets you know in the WA bend that the treaty is the basis where you've been a beneficiary. Because the WA bend means beneficiary. It's a certificate of foreign status. That's what the WA bend is. Certificate of a foreign status of beneficial owner for United States tax withholding and reporting. And then look, it has clause part 2. It says claim of tax treaty benefits. This is when you put the Moroccan treaty. This is one way I'm showing you how to apply the Moroccan treaty, just one way. Now, this is what you're supposed to give to all your employers. Anybody trying to say you have to have tax withholding for your taxes. By us being Moorish American, we are what? Part and parcel of said government. We are beneficiaries. This is how the profit crashed Wall Street in 1929. They're making us beneficiaries of the treaties, more. Took us out of being property of the United States and being surety. We're going to get into that too. That's in your definition of civic class Wednesday. Hope y'all got them definitions ready. Surety. That's important. We are not surety for the straw man. And that's in our treaty. We're not surety for their cases neither. Those charges. We not to be held surety for that strong man. That's why Noble Drew Ali took Timothy Drew and started Noble Drew Ali. So he won't be held liable for Timothy Drew. That takes liability away from you. Then he tied himself back to being more bite. Was tying him to all the treaties. Security, that's how Noble Drew Ali claimed the land in the Heard Smith Revised Act. This affidavit is pursuant to the Heard Smith Revised Act. The Religious Corporation Act of 1800s. Let's look at that before we close out. Y'all got me on fire. The Religious Corporation Act told you to claim the land. See, this is how you know he made a trust for us. He made the trust for us, and then Well, I ain't put 18. He made the trust for us, Morris. I'm just going to read a little part of this. So he made this. He put us, see, this says on there, it says, corporation, religious affidavit, organization. So he filed this affidavit. This is the same affidavit that comes out of this act. He filed this on the record, according to this act. Now, this act says this: any church, congregation, or society formed for the purpose of religious worship may become incorporated in the following manner: by electing or appointing, according to its usages and customs, at a meeting held for that purpose, 2 or more members as trustees, wardens, or vestrymen, or such officers whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees, as shall be agreeable to the usages and customs, rules, and regulations of such congregation, church, or society, and may adopt a corporate name upon the filing of the affidavit, as hereinafter provided. It shall be and remain a body politic and corporate by the name so adopted. So let's read this, because this says that if you file an affidavit on the record after having a meeting with your society, you shall remain a body politic in a corporation. Prophet said, I, Noble Ali, do solemnly swear that a meeting of the members of the Morning Science Temple held at Chicago, in the county of Cook, state of Illinois, on 20th day of July, AD 1928, for that persons were appointed sheiks. Now you see what it means. It says if you appoint anybody or elect them, see, that's called republic. You either elect people or appoint them. You don't see a dictatorship or a monarchy, you just self-appointed. No. In this Morning Science Temple, we are appointed chiefs, right? That's a republic. And we are body politic by following this affidavit. Sheiks are trustees. It says appoint, and we read this again. It says by electing or appointing according to his usages or customs at any meeting held for that purpose, 2 or more members as trustees. All right, so that makes this a trust, right? If it's appointing a trustee, that makes that declaration of a trust. Now let's read more into this. And then it gives you the exact affidavit to file on the record. This is the affidavit. I do solemnly swear, affirm, as case may be, that a meeting of the members of the same was held. And it tells you what it's certain. So they put the template in there. So the prophet just filled out a template. He filled out the template. He said, name trustees. And it says whatever. It says the officers by whatever name they choose to adopt with powers and duties similar to trustees. So he chose the name sheiks instead of saying trustees, because that applies to our religious society. But we have the powers and duties similar to trustees. So you have to understand the trustee manual to know what a trustee is and how to be a trustee. So that's the template they put on the record. Now look, this is where it gets about our land and estate right here. Section 42 says, any corporation that may be formed for religious purposes under this act or any law of this state for the incorporation of religious societies may receive land by gift, legacy, or purchase, and may erect and build thereon such houses, buildings, or other improvements as it may deem necessary for the convenience and comfort of such congregation, church, or society, and may lay out and maintain thereon a burying ground. By only 10 acres of such land shall be exempt from assessment from taxation, and all such land in excess of 10 acres shall be assessed at the same valuation as if it were not a part of a cemetery. And such property shall be used only except in a manner expressed in the gift, grants, or legacy, or if no use or trust is so expressed, only for the benefit of the corporation, church, or society for which it was intended. Do you hear me? Let me read that again, Morris. It says, any corporation that was formed under this act that Noble Drew Ali formed as a religious society may receive the land by gift or legacy. What it means that they receive land by gift or legacy, that means by inheritance or by a trust. Because you give things to the trust. It says by a grant. When we filed our affidavit saying we are part of the Morris Science Temple of America, we pledge our allegiance on that affidavit to Noble Drew Ali, who filed this affidavit. They said we was the grantee. They said we was the grantee. The judge put that on there. You're the grantee on your affidavit of nationality. Because I tied us back to who? Our holy prophet. Who tied us to what? The land. Now, in this, it also says that we can have a cemetery. Who else did that? Donald Trump. Then he turned his land into a cemetery to be tax free. But see, the prophet was ahead of Donald Trump. The prophet Ben knew about this because he put us on the Herbst Revised Act. Islam. This is what I mean by the commercial side of what the prophet did for us.
Damn. So imagine our relatives would have buried themselves. Like, you know, we own a house and they would have buried themselves in their backyard. That would have created something crazy, huh?
Or we would have never we would have had no property because they would have never been taxed. And then it says up to 10 acres. So that's what we need to go do. Go get 10 acres. I done seen 10 acres in Texas for what? $75K? They had another one with a house on there for $250K. See, that's why we gonna get the land. We get a minimum of 10 acres. 10 acres is a lot. And it's tax-free. We put it under the name of Morris Science Temple of America. That's what the prophet mean in the Morris literature. He said, put all property under the Morris Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. Why? Because it's tax exempt, more. Create our own cemetery and schools on our own land, more. But first, we got to correct the status so we can operate this. Correct the credit so we can operate this, more. We the trustees of this. He already put it on the record. He trusted us with this. That's going to think this over, you more, as we said it at. The prophet said it right here in Article 6. Think this over, you Moors. He said this. He said, wait a minute, where he said? Oh, here we go. He says, everything, every business transaction, anything pertaining to finance is to be transacted in the name of the Morris Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. Then he also says, when any said temple desires to purchase property, they must first notify the grand body or the prophet, and it must be purchased under the name of Morris Science Temple of America or Noble Drew Ali. An individual name should never be applied. I, Noble Drew Ali, am responsible for all finance, so therefore let I, the prophet, know what is on me. That's what he meant by it takes finance to uplift the nation, boy. He already redeemed man. He gave us the redemption manual. When you understand what redeemed mean in commerce, what do it mean? Matter of fact, that's the only definition. We're going to go overtime today, more. I'm going to give y'all the overtime today, more. Let's go on one more definition before we close out. Let's see what redeemed mean in law. But we know with in the spiritual world what redeem mean, on the esoteric meaning. But what about when we talking about redemption of our bills? That's why the prophet redeemed man. Redeem, Black's Law Dictionary says to buy back, to free property, or article from mortgage or pledge by paying a debt for which it stood as security. The prophet said, let me know the debt that's on me. I'm responsible. I redeem man. He freed up the property more. He paid the debt. He put the pledge on the record. He put the lien on the record for us. Tied us back to the ancient Moabites. Now let's go back. Let's look at redeemable. Now I'm on fire, but I'm knocking the ribbon off myself. More, I'm setting myself on fire. So, redeemable. Subject to redemption, admitting of redemption or repurchase, given or held under conditions, admitting or reaccusation by purchase. We'll get in there. That's the 1099A to acquisition, to acquire something. Now let's read the definition of redemption, because redeemable means redemption, right? So you got to know what redeemable means when we say the United States notes is not redeemable, because the prophet came and redeemed us. Redemption, the realization of a right to have the title of property restored, free, and clear of the mortgage. Performance of the mortgage obligation being essential for that purpose. The right of a debtor, and sometimes of a debtor's other creditors, to repurchase from a buyer at a forced sale property of the debtor that was seized and sold in satisfaction of a judgment or the claim against the debtor, which right usually is limited to forced sales of real property. Also, a bankruptcy term for extinguishment, a lien on exempt property by making a cash payment equal to the value of the property. The reacquisition of a security by the issuer pursuant to a provision in the security that specifies the terms on which the reaccusation may take place. A security is called for redemption when the issuer notifies the holder that the redemption privilege has been exercised. Typically, a holder of a security that has been called for redemption will have a limited period thereafter to decide whether or not to exercise a conversion right if one exists, Morris. So the prophet redeemed man. He came to take back the property, Morris. And that's what I mean by he crashed that Wall Street in 1929, man. Put that affidavit on the record. He gave notice. It says right here. It says when the issuer, pursuant to provision, specifies the terms in which the accusation may take place. A security is called for redemption when the issuer notifies the holder that the redemption period has been exercised. He notified the holders. Who's the holding company? United States. What did he do? Put this on record. Notification. Put this on record. He gave notice of a lien. Chapter 47. Who he said the two possessors was in the Holy Quran. All this is on public record. All this on public record. So we gave him due notice. Due. What do mean? Something that must be paid. It's an obligation. So we the holders of due course. We gave them due notice. And now they overdue. They passed due date. Now it's time for us to act as trustees of our vast estate. That's what Jesus said. Jesus said, I brought you back the title to your vast estate in your Quran. And Jesus is Yahshua. What did Yahshua do? Set up kingdoms. He came back and took the land. He was driven. Islamism. I'm going to close out this meeting with that more because I'll go all day about that lesson. Islam, y'all be in a 3-hour Sunday school. Any questions before we close with the reading of the prophet in Morris American Prayer?
I just want to know if you're going to be available this week. I want to get with you.
Oh, yeah. You know, always for the faithful Morris, just let me know. Just hit me up, text me, and call me, and I'll call you back. You know, I'm wearing that course of business. Yeah, I've been freeing up my schedule. Sure. Any more questions? I'll take the accusations. Okay. Article 26 to be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim I was only a joke and not real. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay the divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet and your divine Moors movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can serve aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy. Because of my fame and nobility, the nations of the world will not recognize the movement without eye of the prophet being hid, as been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Muhammad Ali. I'll rise for the reading of Lord's Shalom prayer. Police. Heels touching. Feet at a 45 degree. Part of self, we had a 90 degree. It used to be 45. Feet at a 90 degree angle. Spread your wings. 5 to the left and 2 to the right. Feet out for me. More than ever prayer. Allah, Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Salvation, Allah, unity. Time never was. This morning has now been closed. Salvation, Allah, unity, boys. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
See y'all on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Civic class.